Hey guys, this is Lee E. Today we want to talk about TOEFL speaking interview questions. To be more specific, we want to address a pain point that some of you have faced. That is, you just can't come up with things to talk about, even with some template. Okay. Again, for many people, a simple template like statement, reason, example is already quite useful to help them guide their thoughts. Let me just quickly recap for the people who don't know what that is. Okay, so the question might be, what is your favorite indoor activity? You can say something like, statement, I love reading, reason, because it helps me feel more relaxed. Example, for example, in the past, when I got home from work, I felt very stressed, and I kept thinking about work, so life was very exhausting, it was not relaxing at all. But then, my friend suggested reading, and I started reading novels. I started reading comic books. Whenever I do that, I'm just immersed in that world and forget about my worries. So now whenever I read, I feel more calm and relaxed. Done. So again, that's what I meant by statement, reason, and example. But a lot of people say, hey, I know that structure, but I just don't have a reason. When I look at this question, I just have no idea, blank. Even with that framework, you got to have a reason for that framework, right? For example, feeling more relaxed. So here, I'm going to give you some of the most popular reasons that my students use in the past 8 years. So it helps them. They're humans. So if you're a human, you probably can use some of these reasons repeatedly in TOEFL interview questions. Okay. Because TOEFL interview questions are very similar to the independent questions in the old TOEFL. So here are the most popular reasons that people use: feeling more relaxed, having more fun, learning new things, feeling less anxious, becoming healthier, making more money, building relationships, gaining confidence. So again, they're popular because those are the exact things that we seek in our daily life whenever we do things, right? So let me give you an example. When you practice, if you are someone who, like I said, don't have a lot of ideas when you look at a question, I would say look at these reasons first, and then use them to inspire you to pick a side. Okay, for example, do you prefer watching TV alone or with other people? Okay, if you want to use the reason, have more fun, then you can think about, have more fun. If I want to have more fun, which option do I want to choose? Okay, so with other people. Okay, so then the statement could be, I prefer watching TV with my friends because it's more fun. Okay. For example, again, before after story. In the past, I used to watch TV alone every weekend by myself, and it was very boring. And I sometimes just flipped through the channels and didn't know what to watch. Okay, but nowadays I watch TV with my friends. To be more specific, I watch TV with my friends from work. We talk, we share ideas, and we even eat together when we love watching football games together. So it's just so much more fun. Okay. All right. So put the questions next to you. Put the reasons next to you. And if you feel like, having a countdown timer, is too much of a gives you too much of a pressure in the beginning, then just put the timer, put your clock or any timing device away, and just focus on getting inspired by that list of reasons, and then pick a side, and then use that before and after structure to build your. If you're taking the new TOEFL 2026 and want extra practice, timing, and scoring guides and updates as we collect more real results, there's a link below this video. Fill out the short form and I'll send them to you. So here, another example. Okay. Do you prefer a busy schedule or a more relaxed one? Okay. You can say something like, okay, so let me look at my list of questions. Having more fun. I'm a person who's all about fun, right? So we could say something like, I prefer a busy schedule because it makes life more fun. For example, in the past, I didn't plan my time well, and sometimes on weekends, I didn't know what to do. I just sat at home and just felt very bored. See, it's the same story, right? But now I plan my schedule in advance. I usually plan my schedule a few days in advance. So every hour I'm doing something meaningful. I'm meeting my friends, I'm spending time with my family, or I'm going out to read in a book a store or something like that. So life is more fulfilling, it's more fun. I just love it. Okay? So this is how you practice. Again, this is not for everyone. It is just for those who just can't come up with ideas easily. Okay? And it's also good for people who are not very strong grammatically, because if there's too many things that are moving in your head, that is exactly why you're not fluent. Okay, that is exactly why you're making a lot of grammatical mistakes. You need more predictability. All right. So again, how do you practice? If you struggle with ideas, here's what to do. Keep a list of common reasons. Put them next to you when you practice. Use the before and after example template, and practice without timing first, and let your ideas flow for a few days. When you just begin to use this kind of practice method. Once you feel like the ideas flow more naturally, then you can start timing yourself. Okay. Now you're going to see 3 sets of practice questions. Get your recording app ready, and you can review your answers later.
Today, I'd like to ask you some questions about shopping habits. First, what kinds of shopping do your friends or people in your country usually prefer? For example, they might shop online, visit shopping malls, go to local markets, or look for discounts and sales. Why do you think they prefer those ways of shopping? That's interesting. When you go shopping, do you prefer buying things online or going to physical stores? Good points. I just have one more question. Some people believe that planning purchases carefully is essential for managing money well. Do you agree? Or do you think being flexible with spending can be just as beneficial? Explain why you think so. Today, I'd like to ask you some questions about news sources. First, what kinds of news sources do your friends or people in your country usually use? For example, they might watch TV news, read newspapers, use social media, or follow online news websites. Why do you think they prefer those sources? That's interesting. When you check the news, do you prefer getting information from social media or from official news websites? Why? Interesting. Next, I'd like to get your opinion. In recent years, more people have started using digital platforms for news. Do you think traditional sources like TV and newspapers will become less popular in the future? Good points. I just have one more question. Some people believe that regularly following the news is essential for being an informed citizen. Do you agree? Or do you think people can live well without paying much attention to the news? Today, I'd like to ask you some questions about volunteer work. First, what kinds of volunteer activities do your friends or people in your country usually do? For example, they might help at community events, teach children, take part in environmental cleanups, or support charities. Why do you think they choose those activities? That's interesting. When you do volunteer work, do you prefer helping locally in your community or volunteering abroad? Why? Interesting. Next, I'd like to get your opinion. In recent years, more young people have started doing volunteer work. Do you think this will become even more common in the future? Good points. I just have one more question. Some people believe that doing volunteer work is essential for developing a sense of responsibility and empathy. Do you agree, or do you think other activities can be just as beneficial?
If you have any questions executing any of the methods that we talked about in our videos, you can leave them in the comments below. Okay? So have fun practicing.